Yeah, guys, that's the review for round 22. So now we get to the tips for round 23. We start with a massive game, 1 versus 2 at Marvel. Why is it at Marvel? I know that I think every single Victorian club has to play a game at Marvel and at the MCG every year, like as a home game. So I think this is Collingwood's. But why would they, at the start of the year, think, yeah, these two teams made the top, made the prelims at least last year. We're going to make them play at Marvel Stadium. That was a stupid idea. But anyway, at Marvel Stadium, massive game for Collingwood. They win this one, they secure a top spot. If Brisbane win it, though, they almost secure top 2. So massive game for both clubs. The only reason why I'm going to be tipping Collingwood is basically because it's not at the Gabba. I do give Brisbane a bit more of a chance, though, because it's not at the MCG. But at Marvel, I do think Collingwood will be better. However, without Darcy Moore, that is another big loss for them with Brisbane's tall forward line, but also Jack Gunston's out for, well, I think he'll be out. I'm pretty sure he got a pretty serious injury. So I think he'll be out for the Brisbane Lions. So we'll see how that pans out. I think Collingwood will win that one, probably a couple of goals. After that, we get to Saturday afternoon, Richmond versus North Melbourne. Play this one at Marvel and play the Collingwood game at the MCG. Whatever. Anyway, so Richmond by North Melbourne at the MCG. Richmond win this one pretty comfortably, I believe. North Melbourne are just in a hole. They're going to go the rest of the season without winning a game, I think. It's pretty disappointing because, I thought at the start of the year they've turned a leaf and they really haven't. So Richmond will win this one pretty convincingly, I think. I think they'll bounce back after a couple of poor performances. And, we'll see how they go for the rest of the year. They do have Port Adelaide in the final round, so a pretty tough game there, but they'll get a pretty easy beat against North. After that, we get to the Gold Coast. First, Carlton in the Gold Coast. Interesting game, I think, because I think the Gold Coast could actually have them in defence because even though Charlie Ballard and they're tall defenders back there, they are quite tall, but they also can play quite small. And with Charlie Curnow down there, and obviously it's a Koning rotating through there, I think that they can actually win that battle, to be fair. I just think that Carlton are playing too good at the moment to lose this game. Even though I think the Gold Coast do actually match up pretty well against Carlton, I do think that Carlton's just in too good a form at the moment, and they win this one, win 9 in a row. And with another round to go after that, they could potentially be going into the finals with 10 wins straight, which is massive for them. After that, we get to the Giants versus the Bombers. If this was 6 weeks ago, this would be one of the games of the round. But now, both teams are pretty poor. I mean, yes, Essendon won last week against North Melbourne, but not exactly a huge win for them, and they just beat the West Coast Eagles the week before that. So, 2 wins from Essendon. I mean, they're in good form, but with a combined win of 8 points in the past 2 weeks against the bottom 2 sides who have averaged like 50-point losses every week, they're not exactly in good form, but the Giants are off 2 losses. So I think the Giants will want to bounce back. They will bounce back in this one. And whoever loses this game is basically written off. You can't make finals from here because both of them don't have a very good percentage, and both of them currently sit outside the 8. So, loser of this is out. Winner of this, a slight chance of making the finals. After that, we get to Saturday night. St Kilda versus Geelong. Another massive, massive game. A lot of these games are on Saturday afternoon, Saturday night sort of window, which is really good to see. I wish it was actually the final round, but anyway. St Kilda versus Geelong at Marvel. I give St Kilda a little bit of a chance here. I think, like I said, St Kilda match up okay with Geelong on the fact that, I don't think Tom Hawkins will be there. So, the Wilkie I think matches up pretty well on Jeremy Cameron. I just think the smalls of Geelong will get on top, and I think their midfield will be a little bit too strong, and I just don't think St Kilda can kick a store. I just don't think they will. So I'm going to be picking Geelong in this one. I think they'll win that one pretty comfortably, and will give themselves a real chance towards that finals push. But if they lose, I think whoever loses this game misses the finals. Because I think that if St Kilda lose it, I don't think they'll beat Brisbane at the Gabba next week. And if Geelong lose it, they're just straight out anyway. So, yeah, I think this game's actually another one that's going to be whoever loses this game is straight out of the finals. So, we'll see how that one pans out. The other Saturday night game is Adelaide versus Sydney Swans. And I looked to get tickets to this one, and they were basically all sold out. I think you get single tickets, but I'm not going to go by myself. I'm not a loser. Well, I am. I'm doing a podcast by myself. But anyway, Crows versus Swans. If this was at the SCG, I'd be picking my boys. But at the Adelaide Oval, it's going to be hard. The Swans did win over there in Gather Round and played well, but they played against Richmond. This is a whole different beast. Beating the Crows at Adelaide Oval would be a massive win for the Swans and would truly prove that they're in some good form at the moment. Not that I don't think the Swans are in good form, but this would just prove it tenfold. But I think the Crows are in some good form at the moment. They're not losing games by very much away from home, and at home they're still a dominant force. They will have Alzak Rankin back this week as well, which is also massive for them. I think Harry Cunningham will take that job anyway, but it's going to be massive for the Crows. They need to win this game to keep their finals hopes alive. If Sydney lose this one, it doesn't necessarily mean they will miss the finals, but they need to win one of the next 2 games. So at this point, I'm picking the Crows because it's at Adelaide Oval, but I think the Swans can give them a real fight for their money. We'll see how that one pans out. Sunday afternoon, early game, Western Bulldogs versus West Coast. The Bulldogs win that one by at least 50 points. After that, we get to Melbourne versus Hawthorn. I'm sorry, I'm not going to spend time on that. I mean, Bulldogs will just respond, beat them by 60-odd points, and the game is over. I don't need to explain why I'm picking the Bulldogs. After that, we get to Melbourne versus Hawthorn. I do give Hawthorn a little bit of a chance here. I know on the ESPN tipping app, they're only a 7% tip for Hawthorn, but I don't actually rate Melbourne's form at the moment. I don't think they're in that much of good form, really. I do think the loss of Petty was pretty big a couple of weeks ago, and Brodie Grundy's not the forward option, so I don't know if he goes back to the VFL or whatever. I do think Melbourne, I think you have to pick Melbourne here. I do think the Hawthorn are in some good form, and I do think that they can match up with them pretty well. The problem is, I don't know if Hawthorn's midfield can get on top here, and I think if Hawthorn's midfield loses, then Melbourne win this one all day. But if Hawthorn can get on top in the midfield, I give them a chance, because I think that's where the game can be won for Hawthorn, because if Melbourne are off just a little bit, I think Hawthorn could have their day at the MCG. Young guys could, I think they could have a chance here, but I just think that Melbourne, they're up in the top 4 for a reason. I think they win this one. I think it will be a close game, though. And finally, we get to Fremantle versus Port Adelaide at Optus Stadium. Port Adelaide don't have the best record at Optus Stadium. I think they lost against Fremantle last year down there. I think they beat West Coast last year, but again, who cares? It's West Coast. Port Adelaide finally got themselves back with a win against the Giants, so you can't really count them out. They're kind of back in form now. We'll see if they get a few injured players back this week. They got a couple back last week, which I think really helped them against the Giants. I just think Port Adelaide win this one because they're just higher up on the ladder. They're back into a bit of form, and I just think that Port Adelaide's midfield is just humming along very nicely. I think they'll get on top of Fremantle, and I think if they don't win that midfield battle, I think they're going to get rolled over pretty convincingly. If they win the midfield battle, though, Fremantle, with Sarong and Brayshaw and the like, I think they have a chance. But I just think Port runs too deep through there, and I think it could be a close first half. But I think Port Adelaide's, big, bulky midfielders will just take over in the second, and Port Adelaide will run away with that one at the end of the day.